Commander Jun Kim stood at the viewing window of Galactic Council headquarters watching the stars. His face showed no emotion, but his hands gripped the railing tightly. On the giant screen behind him, images of destruction played on repeat. The once thriving Zelnar colony was now just floating debris, the third such attack this month. "Commander, the emergency session is starting," said Lieutenant Hannah Park, her voice quiet. June nodded and followed her to the council chamber. The large circular room buzzed with fear. Representatives from 27 spacefaring species argued loudly. Some pounded on tables. Others waved tentacles or appendages in agitation. The Maurathi attacks had everyone scared. Admiral Zhou, a respected military leader, stood at the center. His holographic display showed the massive creatures responsible for the destruction. The Maurathi were enormous space-dwelling beings that resembled Earth's ancient sea creatures, but much, much larger. Their bodies glowed with strange blue-green light, and they moved through space with surprising speed. The Keldorian defense fleet tried to stop the attack. 30 ships, our most advanced technology, Admiral Zhou said. His voice shook slightly. All destroyed in under 5 minutes. No survivors. The room went silent. "We must combine our forces," shouted the Delvian representative, his red scales flaring. "Kill these monsters before they destroy us all." Many voices agreed. The fear in the room was thick enough to touch. June watched quietly. Humans were newcomers to the galactic community. Earth had only developed faster than light travel 50 years ago. Most species viewed humans as primitive, even though human innovation had already contributed significantly to galactic technology. "Commander Kim, does Earth have anything to offer?" asked the council leader, an ancient being with eyes that had seen millennia pass. June stepped forward. "We're analyzing the attack patterns," he said calmly. "There might be something we're missing." Hannah Park moved to his side, tablet in hand. "Sir, permission to speak?" At June's nod, she addressed the council. "I've been studying all recorded encounters with the Maurathi. There's something odd about their behavior. They don't initiate attacks." The Delvian representative laughed harshly. "Did you not see what happened to Zelnar? To the Keldorian fleet?" "Yes," Hannah replied steadily. "But in each case, our ships or colonies were there first. The Maurathi appeared afterward." "They're territorial predators," someone called out. "Of course they attack. What enters their space?" Hannah shook her head. "The attacks all began after we activated certain technologies. Mining equipment, long-range scanners, particular engine frequencies." The council leader leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Lieutenant?" "I believe we might be hurting them, without knowing it," Hannah said. "Every documented attack followed specific energy emissions from our ships or colonies." The chamber erupted again. Most dismissed the idea immediately. Humans were naive, too soft. The Maurathi were clearly mindless killers. June met Hannah's eyes, seeing the same thought reflected there. What if everyone was wrong? What if the most feared creatures in the galaxy were simply responding to pain? After the meeting, June and Hannah walked through the station's quiet corridors. "They won't listen," Hannah said, frustration clear in her voice. "They're too afraid to consider alternatives." June stopped at another viewing window. In the distance, a fleet was assembling, the latest military response to the Maurathi threat. Billions of resources poured into weapons that had failed every time before. "What would you do differently?" he asked. Hannah's eyes lit up. "Observe. First, try to understand. The Maurathi have complex bioluminescent patterns. Those might be communication. And they move in coordinated groups. That suggests intelligence. The council won't approve a research mission," June noted. "Then we don't ask the council." Hannah's voice dropped to a whisper. "The research vessel Horizon is docked here. Captain, Minho Lee is an old friend of yours, isn't he?" June's eyebrows rose. "Are you suggesting we go against direct orders?" "I'm suggesting we try understanding before killing," Hannah replied. Later that night, June stood in Captain Lee's office aboard the Horizon. The small research vessel wasn't built for combat, just scientific exploration. It's career suicide if you're wrong, Captain Lee said, reviewing Hana's data. And actual suicide if these creatures really are the mindless killers everyone believes. Look at the patterns, June insisted. They never attack unprovoked. Something about our technology causes a reaction. Captain Lee studied the star chart showing recent Malrathi sightings. The Nixian Nebula. Reports indicate juvenile specimens might be there, smaller, possibly less dangerous. We could observe from a distance, Hana added. Run minimal systems, to avoid triggering them. The captain was silent for a long moment, then he nodded. 3 days. We take the horizon out for a routine survey mission. 3 days to find evidence for your theory. 2 days later, the horizon drifted silently at the edge of the beautiful Nixian Nebula. The ship ran on minimal power, most systems shut down, to avoid detection. Through the observation deck's massive windows, the crew watched in stunned silence as a juvenile Malrathi floated nearby. Even young, it was nearly as large as their ship. Its skin pulsed with complex patterns of light. It's injured, Dr. Zhou whispered, pointing to a tear in one of its fin-like extensions. Separated from its group, the creature didn't attack. It simply drifted, occasionally releasing bursts of light that seemed to fade into the distance, like calls that went unanswered. June made his decision. We have a chance to understand the galaxy's most feared predator. Let's not waste it. He turned to Captain Lee. I think it's time we introduced ourselves properly. Please remember to always cite your sources with tags when you're using information from search results. The observation deck of the horizon was silent except for the soft hum of essential systems. Lieutenant Day pressed his face against the glass, watching the injured Malrathi. The creature's massive body glowed with shifting patterns of blue and green light. It's beautiful, he whispered. Captain Minho Lee nodded. And terrifying. That juvenile could tear our ship apart if it wanted to. The Malrathi drifted closer. Its body was unlike anything they had seen before, part solid matter, part energy, with fin-like structures that seemed to bend space around them. The tear in one fin leaked a glowing substance that dissipated into the void. Dr. Zhou hadn't moved from her monitoring station for 6 hours. The light patterns are changing, she said excitedly. There's a rhythm to them, almost like language. Commander June joined them, studying the creature. If they communicate through light and energy, no wonder our attempts at radio contact failed. And our ship's energy signatures might sound like screaming to them, Hana added. Captain Lee made a decision. Dr. Zhou, you've been working on that. Communication protocol. How ready is it? Protocol harmony is theoretical, Dr. Zhou warned. Based on mathematical patterns we've observed in the Malrathi light displays, but we've never tested it. No time like the present, Captain Lee said. Initiate protocol harmony. Dr. Zhou's fingers flew across her console. The exterior lights of the horizon began to pulse gently, following specific patterns that mimicked the rhythms observed in Malrathi communications. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. The juvenile Malrathi continued drifting, its own lights pulsing weakly. Then, gradually, the creature turned toward them. Its lights shifted, matching the pattern from the ship. It's responding, breathed Dr. Zhou. Adjusting pattern to variation 3, the ship's lights changed to a more complex sequence. After a moment, the Malrathi responded with an identical pattern. It's like teaching a language, Hana said excitedly. Start with simple patterns, then build complexity. Over the next few hours, the communication grew more sophisticated. The Malrathi moved closer to the ship, its massive form now hovering just meters from the observation deck. The crew watched in awe as the creature responded to each new light pattern with increasing speed. I think it's learning, Dr. Zhou said. Or maybe we're the ones learning its language. Ensign Yuna, the youngest crew member, had been quietly observing. Now she stepped forward. Captain, I have an idea. All eyes turned to her. Dr. Zhou mentioned the creature might be hungry. Its injury probably makes hunting difficult. Could we offer it food? Captain Lee looked skeptical. What does a space-dwelling energy being eat? The scans show it has a physical form that processes matter, Yuna explained. We could synthesize simple organic compounds with high energy content. After discussion, they agreed to try. The ship's synthesizers created a blob of energy-rich material. Using a small drone, they delivered it near the Maurathi. The creature approached cautiously. Its lights flickered rapidly, perhaps showing curiosity or concern. Finally, it engulfed the offering. The crew watched as the material was absorbed into the Maurathi's body. Its energy readings are strengthening, reported Dr. Zhou. I think it worked. The Maurathi's lights brightened. It moved closer to the ship, touching the hull gently with one appendage. It's thanking us, Yuna whispered. June smiled. Let's not anthropomorphize too much, but yes, it seems friendly now. Over the next day, the relationship deepened. The crew named the creature Taeyang, meaning sun in Korean, for its bright glow. Taeyang responded to light signals and even began to recognize individual crew members, reacting differently to each person who approached the observation window. When Captain Lee sent their first transmission to the Galactic Council, images of their peaceful contact with Taeyang, the response was immediate and hostile. Return to headquarters immediately, ordered the council leader. You have endangered all galactic civilization with this reckless behavior. Admiral Zhou was more direct. That thing is playing with you before it kills you. The Maurathi are not pets. They are planet killers. The crew gathered in the conference room to discuss their options. We can't abandon Taeyang, Yuna insisted. It's injured and alone. And we have evidence the Maurathi aren't mindless killers, added Hana. The council needs to see that. Captain Lee looked grave. The council has ordered 3 warships to our location. They're coming to kill Taeyang and possibly arrest us. Silence fell over the room. June stood up. We need to show them what we've learned, not just tell them. How? Asked Dr. Zhou. We invite them aboard, June said simply. Let them see Taeyang up close. Let them see how it communicates, how it responds to us. They'll never agree, Captain Lee said. Then we'll make it impossible for them to refuse, June replied. When the warships arrive, we'll have Taeyang right next to us. If they want to kill it, they'll have to go through us first. The plan was risky, but they had no choice. As the warships approached, the crew of the Horizon positioned themselves at the observation deck. Taeyang floated just outside, its lights pulsing gently. When the lead warship came into view, Captain Lee opened a channel. This is Captain Minho Lee of the research vessel Horizon. We request that you send representatives to observe our findings before taking action. The warship commander's face appeared on screen, his expression hard. You have been ordered to... He stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening as he saw Taeyang floating peacefully behind the Horizon crew. Impossible, he whispered. Not impossible, Captain Lee replied calmly. Just unprecedented. Will you come see for yourself? Hours later, a small shuttle docked with the Horizon. The warship commander and 2 armed guards stepped onto the observation deck, their weapons ready. Taeyang moved closer to the window, its lights shifting to a pattern the crew now recognized as greeting. Watch, said Yuna. She activated a light sequence from her panel. Taeyang responded perfectly, matching the pattern and then adding its own flourish. It's communicating, the commander said, his voice uncertain. Yes, June replied, and we've only just begun to understand them. The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from dozens of species filled the circular chamber, their eyes fixed on the massive screen showing a live feed from the Horizon. Outside the research vessel, Taeyang floated peacefully, its body glowing with gentle pulses of blue-green light. Dr. Zhou stood before the gathered officials, her voice steady despite her nerves. The Maurathi neural structure is unlike anything we've encountered before. Their entire body functions as a sensory organ, especially sensitive to energy frequencies. She displayed a diagram of standard mining equipment used throughout the galaxy. These devices emit a frequency that causes severe pain to the Maurathi nervous system. Every attack we've documented followed the activation of such equipment. An Arxian representative stood, his scaled skin flushed with anger. You expect us to believe these creatures destroyed entire colonies because our technology gave them headaches? Not headaches, Dr. Zhou corrected. Imagine the worst pain you've ever felt, multiplied 1,000 times, suddenly striking without warning. How would you react? The room fell silent. On the observation deck of the horizon, Yuna approached the transparent barrier where Taiyang hovered. The juvenile Maurathi had grown noticeably in the weeks since their first encounter. Its wounded fin had healed, leaving only a faint scar. Yuna placed her hand on the glass. Taiyang moved closer, extending an appendage to touch the barrier from the other side. The creature's lights shifted to a pattern Yuna now recognized as "Happiness, it likes you," said Engineer Hyun, joining her at the window. Yuna smiled. We understand each other. Hyun held up a small device. I finished the prototype. Want to test it? The device was a modified communication tool that translated human speech into the light patterns the Maurathi used. Yuna took it eagerly. Hello, Taiyang, she said into the device. The tool emitted a complex series of light pulses. Taiyang responded immediately, its entire body flashing with excitement. It works, Yuna exclaimed. Back in the council chamber, Ambassador Wu Jin was addressing the skeptical audience. We've developed engine modifications that don't produce the harmful frequencies, he explained. The technology is relatively simple and can be adapted to all existing ships. And the mining operations? Asked a Keldorian representative. Are we supposed to abandon our colonies? Not at all, Wu Jin replied. Engineer Hyun has developed alternative extraction methods that are actually more efficient and don't harm the Maurathi. The council leader leaned forward. Even if what you say is true, how do we know the Maurathi will stop attacking once we modify our technology? Ambassador Wu Jin smiled. I believe a demonstration would be more convincing than any argument. The council agreed to send a delegation to the horizon. 3 days later, 20 representatives from various species stood nervously on the observation deck, watching as Taiyang performed a series of movements in response to light signals from Yuna. The Sao creature seems intelligent, admitted the Arxian representative. Highly intelligent, confirmed Dr. Zhou. We believe the Maurathi have a complex society with their own culture, language, and history. We've only scratched the surface of understanding them. Engineer Hyun stepped forward with another device. This is a standard mining laser, the kind used in asteroid extraction. He activated it briefly. Taiyang immediately recoiled, its lights flashing in patterns of distress. Now watch, said Hyun. He made an adjustment to the laser and activated it again. This time Taiyang remained calm, even moving closer to investigate the beam. A simple frequency modification, Hyun explained. No loss of function, but no pain. For the Maurathi, the council representatives murmured among themselves, impressed despite their lingering fears. That evening, as the delegation prepared to return to the council station, alarms blared throughout the horizon. Multiple Maurathi signatures detected, called out Lieutenant Day from his monitoring station. At least 15 large specimens approaching from the nebula. Panic spread through the visiting delegates. They've come to attack us, shouted one. We need to leave immediately, cried another. Captain Lee remained calm. Hold position, let's see what they want. The massive forms of adult Maurathi appeared in the distance, their bodies dwarfing Taiyang and the horizon. They moved with grace despite their enormous size, their lights pulsing in complex patterns. Taiyang responded excitedly, moving toward the approaching group. They're communicating, said Dr. Zhou, monitoring the light patterns. I think they're Taiyang's family. The adults surrounded Taiyang, their lights flashing in what seemed like joyful reunion. Then, surprisingly, several of them approached the horizon. They're not attacking, whispered one of the delegates in disbelief. Yuna stepped forward with her communication device. Taking a deep breath, she sent a greeting pattern. The response was immediate. The largest Maurathi moved closer to the observation window, its lights forming patterns more complex than any they had seen from Taeyang. "It's thanking us," translated Dr. Su in amazement, "for helping the young one." Over the next hours, humans and Maurathi communicated through light patterns. The council representatives watched in stunned silence as ancient enemies became cautious friends. When a simple misunderstanding led to a moment of tension, a delegate accidentally activated an unmodified device. Taeyang quickly moved between the horizon and the adult Maurathi, its lights flashing what seemed like reassurance. "It's protecting us," June realized. "It understands we meant no harm." By morning, the truth had become clear to everyone. The Maurathi were not mindless killers, but an ancient, intelligent species that humans had accidentally been able to understand, when all others had responded with fear and violence. As the delegates prepared to return to the council, Ambassador Wu Jin stood with Captain Li, watching the Maurathi family interact with Taeyang. "Everything changes now," Wu Jin said quietly. Captain Li nodded. "The most feared predators in the galaxy, and all they wanted was for us to stop hurting them." "Will Taeyang go with them?" asked Wu Jin. They watched as Taeyang moved between its family and the ship, clearly torn. "I think," Captain Li said with a smile, "we might have just gained the galaxy's most unusual crew member." Later that day, when the council voted unanimously to implement the frequency modifications on all ships and colonies, Taeyang remained with the horizon, its new family floating nearby, guardians rather than threats. Dr. Su watched them from her lab, shaking her head in wonder. "All this time we've been neighbors and we never properly introduced ourselves." The massive space station Concordia gleamed like a silver star against the darkness of space. Built specifically for the historic first official meeting between the Galactic Council and the Maurathi, it represented hope for a new era of understanding. Ambassador Wu Jin adjusted his formal uniform as he prepared to welcome both council representatives and the Maurathi delegation. 6 months had passed since the Horizon's discovery, and much had changed. Hundreds of ships and colonies had been modified with Hune's technology. Attacks had stopped completely. Communication with the Maurathi had improved steadily. Taeyang, now significantly larger than when first discovered, floated outside the station's main viewing gallery. The young Maurathi had become the bridge between species, learning human communication patterns faster than any adult of its kind. "Are you nervous?" asked Captain Minho Lee, joining Wu Jin at the window. "Terrified," admitted Wu Jin with a small smile. "We're making history today." The council representatives arrived first, filing into the large circular chamber designed for the meeting. Special transparent walls allowed the Maurathi to remain in space while communicating with those inside. Yuna stood at a control panel, ready to operate the advanced translation system that would convert spoken language to light patterns and back again. Her bond with Taeyang had made her the natural choice for this important role. "They're here," announced June from his monitoring station. 7 adult Maurathi approached the station, their massive forms moving with grace through the void. Taeyang moved to greet them, its lights flashing in excitement. The council leader rose to address the gathered representatives. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history. After centuries of fear and misunderstanding, we meet in peace with warning." Alarms cut through his speech. Red lights flashed throughout the station. "Unidentified ships approaching at attack speed," called out Lieutenant Day. "They're powering weapons." On the monitors, 5 warships appeared, moving rapidly toward the station. Their design was familiar. They belonged to the Galactic Fleet. "This is General Dojin of the Defense Force," came a harsh voice over the communication system. "We are here to eliminate the Maurathi threat once and for all." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Council representatives shouted in confusion and fear. "General Dojin," Ambassador Wu Jin called out, "stand down immediately. This is a sanctioned diplomatic meeting." "Diplomacy with monsters?" the general responded coldly. "The council has grown weak. These creatures have killed millions. They cannot be trusted." Outside, the Maurathi detected the approaching threat. Their lights flashed in patterns of alarm. Taeyang moved quickly, positioning itself between the station and the approaching warships. The other Maurathi followed its lead, forming a protective barrier. They're protecting us, Yuna realized. General Dojin's face appeared on the main screen, his expression hard. Move aside, Ambassador. Those creatures must be destroyed before they attack again. The Maurathi haven't attacked anyone in months, Wu Jin argued. We've discovered the truth. They were defending themselves from pain we unknowingly caused. Them. Lies, snapped the general. My fleet lost thousands to these monsters. Then let me show you, Wu Jin said urgently. Come aboard. See the evidence for yourself. It's too late for that, the general replied. Weapons locked on target. Outside, the Maurathi began to glow more intensely. Energy built around their massive bodies. They're preparing to defend themselves, Dr. Su warned. If those ships fire, the Maurathi will respond. This could restart the war. Captain Lee made a quick decision. Open all channels. Broadcast to every ship in the sector. He stepped forward to address not just General Dojin, but anyone listening. This is Captain Minho Lee of the research vessel Horizon. 6 months ago, my crew discovered that the Maurathi attacks were defensive responses to pain caused by our technology. We modified our systems. The attacks stopped. The creatures you see aren't preparing to attack. They're positioning themselves to protect this station and everyone aboard. On the screen, General Dojin wavered slightly. Look at your own sensors, continued Captain Lee. Those Maurathi could have destroyed this station already if they wanted to. Instead, they're shielding us, including you, General. Taeyang moved closer to the warships, its lights forming a pattern that Dr. Su's translation system interpreted. No harm, peace. Listen. The tension stretched for long minutes. Finally, General Dojin spoke. I lost my entire crew to a Maurathi attack 2 years ago. Only I survived. How can these be the same creatures? Dr. Su stepped forward. Because they weren't attacking, General. They were responding to pain. Your ship's engines were causing them agony. She pulled up data from the Horizon's research. We've discovered the Maurathi have been in this galaxy far longer than any of our species. They're ancient beings who once served as guardians of the cosmic passages. This new information rippled through the chamber. The council leader looked stunned. Guardians? Against what? We're still translating their historical records, Dr. Su explained. But it seems there are threats in deep space that the Maurathi have been protecting the galaxy from for millennia. Our recent technological expansion disrupted their patrol patterns because our devices hurt them. General Dojin's ships remained in position, weapons still armed. Wu Jin addressed him directly. General, I understand your pain. But continuing this cycle of violence helps no one. Look outside. The Maurathi are willing to die to protect this station, to protect us. Does that seem like the action of mindless killers? Taeyang moved to the station's main window, pressing close to where Yuna stood. Its lights formed patterns she had come to recognize as affection. Let me show you something, General, said Captain Lee. He nodded to Yuna. Yuna activated her communication device, sending a complex pattern of lights. Taeyang responded immediately, completing the sequence. Then all 7 adult Maurathi began to glow in unison, creating a spectacular display of harmonized light that surrounded the station and the warships in a protective sphere. They're showing us their guardian protocol, whispered Dr. Su in awe. This is how they've protected the galaxy for thousands of years. The beautiful display continued for several minutes. When it ended, General Dojin's face showed conflict rather than certainty. Stand down weapons, he finally ordered his fleet. I will come aboard and review your evidence. Hours later, in a quiet corner of the station, General Dojin stood before the window watching Taeyang interact playfully with Yuna through the glass. I still find it hard to believe, he said quietly to Ambassador Wu Jin. The truth is often difficult, Wu Jin replied, especially when it challenges everything we thought we knew. If what you say is true, if they truly are ancient guardians, then we've been at war with our protectors, the general said, his voice heavy with regret. Then, perhaps it's time we became worthy of their protection, suggested Wu Jin, by offering our friendship in return. Outside, the Maurathi continued their protective circle around the station, their lights forming patterns of vigilance and promise. A new era had begun. 5 years passed since the historic meeting at Concordia Station. On Earth's moon, the Harmony, Academy stood as a symbol of the new relationship between humans and Maurathi. Its transparent domes allowed the space-dwelling beings to observe training sessions, while special airlock systems permitted them to enter pressurized environments for closer interaction. Jinwoo checked his equipment one final time before graduation day. The neural interface headband allowed direct communication with Maurathi through thought-to-light conversion. It had taken him 2 years to master the technology and the complex language of light patterns. Nervous? Asked his instructor Yuna, now Chief Communication Officer of the Earth-Maurathi Alliance. A little, admitted Jinwoo. Bile can sense my emotions. I don't want my anxiety to affect our performance. Yuna smiled. Bile chose you from hundreds of candidates. Trust that bond. Outside the Academy dome, Buell waited. The young Maurathi was small by its species standards, only the size of a small shuttle, but its light patterns showed intelligence and enthusiasm that had impressed even the oldest Maurathi elders. The graduation ceremony began with high-ranking officials from both the Galactic Council and Earth's government in attendance. One by one, the human graduates demonstrated their communication and navigation skills with their Maurathi partners. When Jinwoo's turn came, he stepped onto the open platform and activated his neural interface. Begin synchronized navigation exercise, Mo, announced the examiner. Jinwoo took a deep breath and projected his thoughts through the interface. Outside, Buell's body brightened with blue-green light. The young Maurathi moved in a complex pattern, creating a flowing dance of motion and light. Jinwoo moved in perfect harmony on the platform, his body mirroring Buell's movements as they communicated. Together, they completed the most difficult navigation sequence ever attempted at graduation. When they finished, the audience erupted in applause. Ambassador Wu Jin, now elderly but still sharp, nodded in approval. From enemies to partners in just 5 years, he remarked to Captain Lee, who had become Admiral after the Concordia event. I sometimes can't believe how far we've come. Admiral Lee watched as Jinwoo and Bayul continued their demonstration, now showing how a Maurathi could safely guide a ship through a treacherous asteroid field. Remember when we first met Taeyang? Lee asked. So small and frightened. And now Taeyang leads the Guardian fleet, Wu Jin said with pride. Far across the galaxy, the massive form of Taeyang moved alongside a refugee convoy. 3 human ships accompanied the enormous Maurathi, which had grown to a size that dwarfed even the largest spacecraft. Taeyang's body glowed with strength and purpose as it guided the refugees through a dangerous region of space known for pirate attacks. The refugees, families fleeing a dying star system, watched in awe as Taeyang moved protectively around their ships, occasionally releasing pulses of energy that cleared micrometeors from their path. I never thought I'd feel safe with a Maurathi nearby, whispered one refugee to Commander Day, who led the human escort ships. We grew up with stories of them destroying worlds. Those stories were missing context, Day explained. They never wanted to hurt anyone. We just never learned how to listen to them. When sensors detected approaching pirate vessels, Taeyang moved ahead of the convoy. Its body glowed brighter, energy building around its massive form. The pirates, seeing the enormous Guardian, immediately changed course and fled. No weapons had been fired. No lives had been lost. The convoy continued safely on its journey. Back on Earth, celebrations for the Academy graduation continued into the evening. A special reception allowed humans and Maurathi to mingle in a large, partially pressurized chamber. The smaller, younger Maurathi could survive briefly in the modified atmosphere, while humans wore light-breathing masks. The Arxian ambassador, whose species had once led the charge for Maurathi extermination, watched in amazement as Buell gently floated near a group of human children, creating beautiful patterns of light that made the children laugh with delight. Only humans, he remarked to Ambassador Wu Jin, would turn the galaxy's most feared predator into a house pet. Wu Jin smiled. Not a pet, Ambassador. A friend. There's a difference. Indeed, agreed the Arxian. Your species' capacity for turning enemies into allies is unsettling but impressive. Across the room, Dr. Su, now director of xenobiology at the Galactic Science Academy, discussed her latest findings with a group of scientists. The Maurathi historical records suggest they've been protecting this galaxy for over 50 million years, she explained. They remember civilizations that rose and fell before any of our species evolved. And the threats they guard against? Asked a young researcher. Dr. Su's expression grew serious. We're still translating those records. But they speak of entities, from the spaces between galaxies, beings of pure energy that consume stars. The Maurathi have been our unseen protectors, patrolling the borders of our galaxy, and we almost drove them to extinction, the researcher said quietly. Almost, agreed Dr. Su. But instead, we found a way to help them. The modified technology we developed has allowed the Maurathi population to recover. They can now patrol without pain, and we can advance without harming them. Later that night, Jinwu stood on the observation platform of the academy, looking out at the stars. Baiul floated nearby, its lights pulsing gently in what Jinwu had come to recognize as contentment. Tomorrow, we leave for our first assignment, Jinwu said, his neural interface translating his thoughts to light. The Outer Rim Patrol. Are you excited? Baiul's lights shifted to a pattern of enthusiasm, then curiosity. Jinwu smiled. Yes, I'm a little scared too. But we'll be together. The young Maurathi moved closer, its lights forming the pattern that meant friend-family protector, a concept that had no direct translation in human language, but meant something like those who share a bond deeper than blood. Aboard the flagship Guardian, Admiral Yuna prepared for her next mission. The ship had been specially designed to accommodate both humans and Maurathi, with vast sections open to space for the Maurathi crew members. Taiyang had returned from its escort mission and now floated outside the main bridge. Its massive form had matured into that of a Maurathi elder, with complex patterns of light that spoke of wisdom and experience. Yuna placed her hand against the special neural interface. Panel, where shall we explore today? She asked, the thought converting to light. Taiyang's response glowed bright against the darkness of space. Everywhere, together, the Guardian's engines hummed to life, modified engines that caused no pain, only soft harmonies that the Maurathi found pleasant. Human and Maurathi crew worked side by side, former enemies now bound in partnership. As the ship moved away from Earth, other Maurathi joined them, forming a protective escort. Their massive bodies glowed with purpose, ancient guardians now, joined by new allies. The galaxy's most feared predators had not become pets. They had become partners, teachers and friends, and together, they sailed into the future, ready to face whatever waited in the depths of space.